The planet called Duclite is filled with wonders of all kinds. Countless of races live together, some in harmony, others seek war. However, one thing could be said to be true for every last inhabitant of this green planet. The mysteries of the world intrigue them all and are only waiting to be discovered. Most of the continents are populated and filled with many different villages, cities, and kingdoms, but there is one that is considered to be uninhabitable. This is both the case because of the climate and the natural occurrences which happen to take place on that continent. The World Council decided in unison that this location shall be locked down and left alone as it is just too dangerous for adventurers and travelers alike. While most keep true to this agreement, some use the sealed off continent as a dump to get rid of things which they don't want to see anymore. In the swamp, many monsters are trying to survive. It's a world where the strong live and the weak die. The same can be said for the tribe of nomadic destroyers, better known as the Gnolls. These feral humanoids travel around the continent, destroying settlements wherever they see them. But there is one time of the year where they stay in one location for an extended time. The coming of age ceremony is one of the most important moments for a Gnoll. This single event can change their fate and standing in the tribe. But enough said from me. If you want to keep watching The Soul, you don't need a narrator like myself. Today is the day, younglings. Over the last nights, together with the 3 commanders, I have prepared units of 4 people each to venture out to complete the coming of age ceremony together. I hope I don't have to team up with that guy. Shh, quiet man, if the leader hears you, he will exile you. He apparently accepted that thing as his own blood. Disgusting. They should have eaten it when they found it lying around in the swamp. How did it even stay alive before they found it? The mages and the priests claimed that it had the protection of a god. But then again, it would have probably never ended up on Hisum if it actually was protected by a god. Silence! As I can see, you younglings still can understand the gravitas of your current situation. The coming of age ceremony is a ritual that can bring you great power if you succeed, but the chance of dying is even greater. Every Gnoll, however, has to go through this rite. There is only one option for you. Return victorious or die. As you all know, this will be your first hunt without the guidance of a member of the older generation. Be strong and be smart, then you will grow up to be reliable destroyers. Now, let me announce the units for the ceremony. First unit, step forward when I call your name. Ox, Ivel, Moon, Toot. Obviously they put the big 4 together. I can't believe that they always tell us that everyone has a chance to become a commander or the next leader when everybody with eyes can see that these 4 are being raised differently. Second unit, Distru, Halaka, Exitium, Skrios. Third unit, Tion, Iparun, Dinistr, Tuho. Nice! I didn't have to be with any of these trashborns. That's a win in my book. We all know that all of the promising members of our generation have already been called forward. Commander Socho is only announcing the last unit out of respect, but everybody knows that these trashborns are not worth mentioning. Fourth units, Cutter, Slasher, Piercer, Frey. These are all the units. Prepare yourself accordingly and set out for your hunt. We remain in this location until the zenith of the next day. If you don't return until that time, you are considered dead to the tribe. Best of luck. You will need it. The units spread out and each equipped their weapon of choice. Getting ready for combat is one of the first things a Gnoll learns when they are able to move. Frey is the only human in this tribe of monsters, and no one is really sure how he ended up in the swamp, but that doesn't matter. At this moment, he's the same as every other youngling Gnoll, a participant of the coming of age ceremony. Cutter, Slasher, Piercer, and Frey form a circle and start organizing their thoughts. I think it's better for us to go for weaker targets. The most important thing is to have a successful hunt and return back alive. We can always grow stronger later. The Gnolls look at each other, shaking their heads. The biggest of them is the first to speak up. Frey, you're not the leader here. We all know that I am the strongest in this unit. Plus, did your father never teach you that this event wasn't established by us Gnolls? Yes, This whole ritual was created by the great demon lord who put us into this world, basically our all forefather. The better we do, the better our reward will be. Although I think that this whole thing was only meant for gnolls, so I don't know how it will work for you, a human. Frey watches the three gnolls carefully. They weren't wrong. His father never taught him any gnoll customs. The way Frey was raised was basically experience everything firsthand. He didn't get any explanation on anything, no training in combat as well. Everything he knows or knows how to do are things he taught himself. So, you guys want to go for a big one? While still discussing which monster the group is going to hunt, they already set out into the forest. Maybe not a big one, but the more the better, I say. Pirsa isn't wrong. And Frey, your opinion wasn't bad either. We should hunt a big group of weaker monsters, so that we can gather a lot of monster cores. Monster core. An item found inside of every monster. It doesn't equal their heart, but they are valuable materials that can be used for many different things. The stronger the monster, the more potent the monster core. I say we look for a flock of copper sheep. They are probably the weakest in the swamp when it comes to offensive power, but their defense is nothing to scoff at. Not that it's going to be a problem for me. Cutter flexes his arms and shows his muscles. The two other gnolls laugh at the buff hyena. They all know what the tribe thinks of them. They are trashborn, worth nothing, basically better off dead. But this ceremony can change their life forever, so they must take every opportunity possible. Copper sheep, huh? I know where to find some. They tend to graze in secluded areas, making it easier for them to escape when they are being hunted. But because of their heavy copper wool, they are pretty slow, so we should be able to catch them even if they run away. Cutter, Slasher, and Pirsa stare at the boy puzzled from what he just said. Gnolls don't think too much about how they hunt. They mostly overwhelm the enemies with numbers, or they are just stronger than their prey to start with. Hunting in such a small group is uncommon for the feral humanoids, but for the coming of age ceremony, they are being tested in a unit with less people. Maneuvering around the swamp is easy, even for these younglings. It is their home after all, and they are hunters and destroyers, known throughout the entire world. Even though the swamp gnolls always claim to be the strongest tribe of gnolls throughout all of Duclite. After a 30-minute march, they reach a meadow surrounded by water, and close to a tree, a flock of copper sheep can be seen. As quiet as possible, they all swim through the water to reach a spot close to the monsters, while still being hidden away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Each of us needs to take at least 3 of them to make it even. Once again, the hyenas look at Frey like he just said something utterly idiotic. Frey. We may be a unit, but in the end we are also rivals. We won't share the monster cores we get in this hunt. It's a free-for-all, and I will take on the leader. He points at a sheep standing further away from the rest of the flock. Call it the instinct of a hunter, but he was right. From all the sheep in this group, it was the biggest and had the most copper wool on it. It was obviously the alpha sheep. All of you just keep the others away from me so that I can focus. Before the other 3 members could even react to anything Cutter just said, he rushes inside and lands the first strike on the alpha copper sheep, swinging his hand axe right at the sheep, leaving a big slash inside of the copper wool and making blood spurt out. Okay, then I will take care of these guys. Without missing a note, Slasher dashes after his fellow tribesman, filling in a spot in the back of Cutter and swinging his dagger at the copper sheep in front of him. Just like the gnoll before him, he cuts through the copper wool and cuts open the side of his target. While his 2 brothers sprinted at the monsters, Pirsa is a different kind of fighter. He pulls out his longbow and analyzes the enemies. It's exactly like Cutter said. This is a hunting contest, so let me just snipe the children. With his semi-trained gaze, he locates the younger-looking sheep in the flock. They are always accompanied by stronger members, and still have a few open spots on their body, which are not filled with the wool. In the backline, he makes out a few of these exact targets. He readies his bow and fires, hitting one of the younger sheep close to its head, forcing it to fall on its knees. Frey wanted to plan this whole fight out better, but having a strategy makes everything easier in a battle, right? It probably is his human blood talking, but he has to work around his companions to make this fight work. So just like Cutter ordered them to do, he makes his way to a group of 3 sheep standing to the right of Cutter. One of the sheep looks to be of similar strength compared to the one Pirsa just hit, so Frey attacks it first to reduce the number of enemies. He gets in position with his spear. It's an already worn out iron spear. It has already seen many battles, but finding new weapons is hard inside a swamp, so he has to use it until it breaks. Holding his spear in one hand, he takes a swing back and uses a special skill. Beast Piercer! Beast Piercer, a skill specialized in hurting beast monsters. Frey has taught himself this attack as they continue to encounter beast-type monsters, and hitting their vital spot makes the battle easier and more efficient for him. Hitting the sheep in front of him and almost piercing through it with his spear, leaving it heavily wounded. Even though the 4 of them surprised the flock of sheep with their attack, they now had enough time to react. Normal sheep would probably run away from hunters, but copper sheep are different. They may be on the lower end of the food chain, but in this case they have the number advantage, so they start their counterattack. The leader headbutts into Cutter, pushing him away slightly. Next, the parent of the copper sheep that got hit by Piercer's arrow reacts. These sheep are not the smartest. They don't understand the concept of rage attacks, and thus it doesn't know from where its child was attacked from. Because of that, it just charges at Slasher, using the speed of this charge to increase the power of its headbutt. Slasher barely manages to react in time and pull up his 2 daggers to block a bit of the impact, but he still feels the blow. While this is happening, another copper sheep sees its leader being attacked, so it charges straight at Cutter. This sped up headbutt hits Cutter, but he just laughs it off. He feels confident about killing a group of mere copper sheep. But that's not all. In total there are 12 copper sheep, so even more are heading towards Slasher, trying to headbutt him once more. However, this time the dagger user manages to parry most of the attacks, leaving him mostly unscathed. Slowly the other sheep are moving closer to the attackers. Frey is surrounded by 3 different sheep, so it gets hard for him to block every single attack, especially when all 3 of them headbutt him at the same time. A headbutt from a sheep can hurt, but he has trained since he was young and his defense is admirable. The attacks don't faze him. Numbers can never be underestimated. The sheep Slasher attacked is now getting back up from the dagger attack and does its own headbutt attack. It hits Slasher in his knee, making him take a few steps backwards from the pain. Scared from what's going on and not understanding where it got hurt from, the sheep that got hit by the arrow tries to follow its parents in an attempt to hide behind the other sheep. Cutter and Slasher don't care how many opponents there are. They have smelled blood and are now out to kill. Simultaneously they strike their targets. Cutter leaves another large wound on the body of the Alpha, but this time Slasher doesn't manage to get through the hardness of the copper wool. From his position, Piercer can easily follow the entire combat, but his target is trying to hide, something a good hunter doesn't allow. Pulling back his bowstring and placing an arrow, he fires off his attack, killing the first sheep of the flock. He starts giggling to himself, like a hyena, which he basically is. Frey sees the sheep fall to the ground in the corner of his eye, so he has to follow up. Attacks like his Beast Piercer exhaust him, so he can't attack with it every time. With a normal spear attack, he pierces through the armor of the sheep, leaving it bleeding and barely alive. Bah! The Alpha sheep yells at all of its flock members, and like the big family they are, most of them follow the command and headbutt their attackers. Slasher is now surrounded by 5 different sheep, making him start panting and bruises already start to form on his body. Even Cutter starts to feel the attack and roars at his prey. However, not all of the sheep feel like this battle is winnable. Frey has almost killed his first target and the sheep is scared. In front of it is a creature it has never seen before, because humans are rare in the swamp area, and every little bit of movement hurts for the sheep, so it tries to run away. But the human doesn't miss this opportunity, and attacks the sheep with his spear in the back, finishing off it. Cutter stares down the Alpha copper sheep, presenting his superior position. He attacks it again. While these sheep only have their number to attack, they often manage to survive on their strong defense alone. Some hunters just believe that hunting a herd of copper sheep is not worth it, as they need to get through the hard shell that is the copper wool. But the gnolls don't care. Anything in their territory is prey to them. Piercer continues with his plan to snipe the unexpected sheep in the back, hitting his first arrow on a new target and leaving it wincing on the ground. Frey has still 2 more enemies in front of him, and he thinks to himself, they are not too strong, they are only annoying. Let me just kill one of them as fast as possible. With another Beast Piercer, he lunges forward his spear through the wool of the sheep. As they still believe they can win, the copper sheep continue with the headbutt barrage, hurting the gnolls again. Frey on the other hand manages to parry the attacks from his 2 targets now. The gnolls started to smell the looming death around the sheep and start salivating at the sight of the prey. Once again, Cutter swings his hand axe, leaving the leader of the sheep on the ground, barely alive. Slasher especially stares at the target he has been attacking so far. It remains standing, but from the blood on the ground he can guess that it's almost at death's door. With his dagger, he slashes through the neck of his prey, leaving it decapitated on the ground. This is the moment where the trait of a Gnoll activates, Bloodlust. Slasher looks at the enemy he just killed, but he wants more. He wants a taste of flesh. Almost instantaneously, he turns around his body and bites inside of a sheep standing to the left of him, leaving Copper Sheep shrieking in pain. Yeah! He would love to take a bite himself, but Pierce is a ranged fighter. He has always been one, so he continues with his next arrow shot, killing the last remaining low-level Copper Sheep. Frey's getting exhausted, but he knows it's not from the sheep that are attacking him, it's his own fault. His Beast Piercer attack takes a toll on his body, and compared to his Gnoll siblings, he never had the strongest body. Even compared to other humans, he would probably be on the lower spectrum of having a healthy body. Nevertheless, he strikes the same sheep with another of his special attacks, leaving it on its knees, barely hanging on. The alpha sheep can't deny it any longer. It's about to die. With a last bang, it orders its flock members to retreat and continue living, headbutting Cutter most likely for the last time. Everything is happening so fast for the sheep. They heard the order of their leader and prepared to retreat, but it's not easy to get away from hunters. So while getting ready to run, they all headbutt the monsters, killing them again. Frey has almost killed his second target, and the sheep heard the command of running away, but it knows that there's no chance. It saw one of the other sheep trying to run away, and it just got killed. Just like its leader, it headbutts Frey one last time, accepting its death. Now Cutter looks his prey into his eyes, and without mercy, he cuts through its body with one last hand axe attack, activating his Bloodlust trait, and making him bite another sheep standing close by. Slasher looks around himself. He can hear his own unsteady breathing, and he feels quite hurt, but he is not one to run away. Gnolls fight to the death. Gnolls don't hesitate. Gnolls just kill and destroy. With another dagger attack, Slasher rips through the body of a sheep, leaving it damaged like never before. Until now, Pierce has only attacked the easy targets further away, but none of them are left. He looks around to see where to help, and it looks like Frey would need it the most. But he is human, and even though they have grown up together since they were babies, there is still a difference in race. Because of that, Piercer instead decides to shoot his bow at the target Cutter just attacked, putting it on its knees. Frey never expected any help from the others, at least not until they finished every other monster. He even said himself that they all need to take at least 3 of the sheep to make it a balanced fight, and these are his 3 sheep. Swift movements lead his spear straight into the body of the sheep, leaving a second corpse next to Frey, and only 1 sheep remaining next to him. Seeing that Slasher is panting and heaving from all the attacks he suffered so far, one of the sheep tries to finish him. However, while being badly hurt, Slasher still manages to dodge the headbutts. Remembering the last command from the leader, the sheep then tries to run away. Knowing that it is the strongest sheep left and needed to form a new flock, it's the best decision. Running away, however, leaves itself open for another attack, so Slasher uses this chance to strike with his daggers, leaving an X marking on the back of the sheep. Another sheep follows the lead of the new strongest member of the flock and runs away from Cutter, leaving his own back also open for another X-wing. A few of the Copper Sheep remain next to Slasher and Cutter. They know that it's going to be hard to escape, so they need to try to win, even if the chance for it is minuscule. The 3 remaining sheep from the biggest group continue to attack Slasher, making him drop down on one of his knees. Cutter destroys the enemy in front of him, killing his next target, and his instincts scream for more blood. Immediately he sprints after the sheep that are trying to run away and bites one of them in their arse. Slasher can't get back on his feet. He is on his last thread as well, but he can still slash around with his dagger. Putting in all of his remaining power, he slashes through the body of a nearby Copper Sheep, killing it in the process. He crawls next to the last remaining Copper Sheep in his area and takes a bite out of its feet. Piercer looks around. He sees the situation. Frey and Slasher are barely standing, but even if they fall unconscious, they can just carry them back to the tribe. He is not stupid. He knows that Cutter is the strongest out of the 4 of them here. So if he decides to follow that Gnoll, it will guarantee him the most food in the future, and depending on the outcome of the ritual, maybe even a high-ranking position in the tribe. Because of all that, he shoots his arrow into the sheep to the one Cutter just bit. Frey is starting to lose the feeling in his arms. This battle has been going on for quite some time already. Putting his all into it, he performs another beast piercer, almost piercing through the entire body of his last foe. The two sheep that tried to run away now see that the situation is unavoidable. They think to themselves, either this is the day they die, or the day they will become the heroes of the copper sheep. Instead of continuing their retreat, they headbutt Kata again. Only one sheep remains at Slasher's side, but the Gnoll is barely standing after being surrounded by almost half of the flock. The sheep takes a running start and charges into Slasher, knocking him on the ground and making him fall unconscious. Frey remains standing while Kata wants to finish off these retreating sheeps. He needs these monster cores. They are his only chance of proving that he and his family are not trash. Receiving a blessing from their demon lord will even give him a chance to become the next tribe leader. This is something he can't just give up on. He does his hand axe attack and kills the first of the two sheep in front of him. Shortly after, he bites the other sheep in the side, taking out a huge part of its flesh. Slasher is lying on the ground, unconscious, not moving anymore. It may just be venting from having its entire flock killed, but the copper sheep that put Slasher in this state continues headbutting him, putting him closer to death. Piercer sees this. He knows that Kata will win this battle. Kata is strong after all, but Slasher is on the ground, and if even one of them dies in the ceremony, they will all be seen as failures. So without hesitation, he fires off another arrow into the side of the copper sheep, attacking his partner. Being almost on the ground himself, Frey can only use his standard attacks from this point on, so he attacks the sheep in front of him, making it jump up in agony. Cutter gets hit once again by a headbutt, and he starts to hunch over. The damage has taken its toll on him as well, but he has to continue. With another axe attack, Cutter kills his next target and uses his trait to bolt over to Frey, biting into his prey. Slasher just got headbutted while being on the ground, and the shock on his body apparently made him regain consciousness. So from lying on his back, he slowly gets back up on his knees, only to see the sheep in front of him and get headbutted another time, losing consciousness once again. Piercer shoots the sheep next to Slasher with another arrow, putting one foot of it already into its grave. Frey knows that Cutter is trying to steal his kill, so as fast as he can do while being this exhausted, he uses his spear to finish off the last of his 3 sheep, completing his self-determined quota. Cutter scoffs at Frey for getting a last hit on that monster, but without missing a beat, he makes his way over to Slasher. He is a bit disappointed from his fellow Gnoll. These two are supposed to hunt together in the future, and there he lies unconscious from a bunch of copper sheep. With a last hand axe attack, he cuts the body of the final copper sheep in half, finishing the first hunt. While Kata is playing strong, he is also hurt. Everybody here, besides Piercer, is really exhausted. After helping Slasher back on his feet, they cut up the bodies of their prey slowly, removing the monster cores from within the copper sheeps. As they are not able to carry all of these monsters to their tribe, they instead decide to eat them right there, obviously raw. Piercer laughs at them. Look at you guys all roughed up. Can't even enjoy the meat properly. Shut up. Just try getting in between hundreds of enemies, you lazy archer. Hundreds? Is that what you are going to tell the others? We only have 12 monster cores. They're never going to believe it. Shut up. They sit together eating their copper sheep, getting rid of the copper wool as there is no way to carry it. What better way is there for boys to form a relationship with each other than eating the monsters they have just killed in the hunt? The sun has only gone down recently. If we set out now, we can reach the tribe without having to sleep in the wilderness. And again, the 3 Gnolls look at Frey as if he'd said the weirdest thing in the world. You know what, Frey? You are a weirdo. But I have to agree. If we go home now, we might be the first unit to return. That's an achievement I won't let the others have. The way back was silent. Even if Piercer tried to tell some jokes about how hurt all of the others are, he always got cut off by Cutter. Putting on a strong facade is all he could do at this point. He closed into the tribe. Slasher, Piercer, Frey calls out to the 2 of the Gnolls. We all know that I don't get the benefits a Gnoll gets when they sacrifice monster cores to the Demon Lord. Just take 2 of my cores. I only need 1 of them as a memory. Really? If the human of this party has 1 talent, it's surprising his Gnoll team members. With Frey's monster cores, Slasher and Piercer both have 3 cores to sacrifice, while Cutter has 5. There it is! We are back home! Everybody looks at the Gnolls standing guard at the entrance to their ceremony site. They weren't even gone for a day, but it still feels nice to be back home. After stepping foot into the site, Cutter starts shouting, "We are back!" Surprised, many of the older Gnolls turn their heads to see the 4 units. Even though no one said it out loud, this was the unit they least expected to return, and here they are. The Null Pack Lord walks toward the younglings and looks at them. Did you run away and still return back home? Frey and the others shake their heads violently. We defeated a flock of copper sheep, father, and now we have returned to sacrifice them to the great demon lord. The Pack Lord is supposed to be impartial, but he can't help himself but smile. His own son, Frey, has come back as the first unit in the coming of age ceremony. And we have 12 monster cores in total. The demon lord is for sure going to give us their blessing. Tamon, the Null Pack Lord, nods his head slowly. You have earned yourself this chance. Now follow me to sacrifice what belongs to our lord. The 4 new adults follow their leader, excited but also scared of what might happen to them now. In a small tent, they find a magic circle drawn around a hole in the ground. My children, sacrifice your monster cores after covering it in a drop of your own blood to the Lord and show them your worthiness. One after the other, they use the blood of their own body to mark the monster cores and then put them in the hole. Only Frey didn't. However, without asking questions, his father and the 3 commanders understood why the human was acting like this. At first, the whole place turned silent, until a shimmering ball of light appeared. Then another, and another. In the end, 6 light orbs could be seen, 1 flying into Slasher, 2 into Cutter, and 3 into Piercer. The Lord has spoken. Slasher has received 1 blessing, Cutter has received 2, and Piercer has received 3 blessings. May their futures be bright and promising. The young Gnolls high-five each other. There have been cases of people sacrificing over 10 monster cores and still not receiving a blessing, so they know that they are really lucky right now. The time to celebrate has come, is what everybody in the tent thinks at this moment, but this moment only lasts until Frey poured some of his blood onto the monster core he kept to himself, and it resulted in an explosion. The young human is lying on the ground, not reacting to the screams of his comrades, his elders, or his father. All he can see is nothing, or darkness. It took you a long time to activate your magic veins, young boy. My name is Valentine Indigo Orenberg. Pleasure to work with you.